Happy NBA Finals Game 2 game day, along with Josh Callaway. I am Colby Daniels. Finally being able to, I guess, move past the debacle that was the Game 1 finale, the heartbreaker. The Indiana Pacers from Indianapolis overcome a 15-point fourth quarter lead. Tyrese Halliburton's heartbreaking game winner. It's a lot to digest if you're the Thunder, because I think you look at that game, and while they have been in this situation before, they've not been in this situation before when the stakes are as large as they are, with potentially an NBA championship 4 wins away. So to lose one in that fashion has got to sting like nothing they've ever felt before. We had NBA Media Day availability yesterday, which we'll hear some sound from. I'm just excited to see what the Thunder look like tonight, Josh, and what the intensity looks like and how sharp they are, because there is no question in my mind that they are going to show up with intensity tonight, right? This is an urgent situation for them, having given up Game 1 to Indiana. But how sharp are they? Because I thought they played with intensity in Game 1, but that wasn't paired with being like razor sharp focused, especially on the offensive side of things.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we joked a lot about the layoff and how it took forever to get to Game 1. And, they weren't quite firing all cylinders offensively, for sure. We talked about that after the game. And it feels like this wait, it's only been a couple of days, has been another, excruciatingly long wait to get to Game 2. It's kind of different. The finals are different than every other round, where you kind of, for the most part, go every other day. The finals, you have to kind of be used to, there's going to be gaps between the games. We do it again after this. Game 3 is not until Wednesday. So, yeah, very curious how they've kind of been able to stew on it the last couple of days and respond. They've been really good after losses all playoffs. Haven't lost 2 in a row. But, to your point, this is different. It's the finals.
Yeah.
The microscope is squarely on them. There's been a lot of conversation the last couple of days. I'm sure they've seen it and they've heard it. They've talked about, I think Jalen Williams was the one who said, you're the only one playing. So, the pressure's kind of all on you. All eyes are on you. And so, they've been so good at responding every single time, really throughout the season, but obviously especially in the playoffs. But this is the toughest spot to do it now. In the finals, if you just had that gut punch in Game 1. So we'll learn a lot about these guys here coming up tonight and how they can kind of answer the bell in a spot where, they don't literally have to win it, but you really don't want to be down 2-0 going to Indy. So pressure's on, obviously, for this Thunder team tonight.
I've been at roughly 90% of the home availabilities throughout this playoff run, and I feel like I'm usually a pretty good judge of body language and just I guess the way that that someone is carrying themselves in situations. I feel like when they have faced adversity through this playoff run, especially I think the biggest two would be the Game 1 Denver collapse and obviously the blowout in Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals at Minnesota. The body language to me said unbothered, following those games, completely unbothered. I never got the sense that it was something that was going to stick with them in the following game.
Them. Yeah.
I didn't necessarily get that sense at Media Day yesterday, but it's also a completely different setting where you're under such a giant microscope and spotlight. And I mean, you're at this giant podium in a press conference, and the just circus that is NBA Finals Media Day, as you know, it's just a totally different setting. So, I don't know how much of, maybe the body language feeling a little bit different is just because of the different setting, or if in fact, this one does stick with them a little bit more, and maybe they're not able to turn the page, or maybe it hurts and they're able to get even more out of that loss in terms of motivation than they got in those previous 2 situations that I talked about. Let's hear some sound. SGA was asked about what changes following a loss, because as I referenced, I mean, they have been exceptional following losses through this postseason run. So he was asked, does anything in the process change to get the bounce back result that they've had through this playoff run?
The losses are a little bit louder, obviously. They hurt more, and you try to you try to get better through them, and it's a lot easier to learn from a loss than it is from a win, just off of the emotional aspect of it. And I think that's probably why it looks the way it does. But yeah, nothing, Coach is right, nothing really changes. The losses hurt a little bit more, I would say.
Yeah, so there you go. They don't do anything differently. They don't prepare in any different way. You just have that sting inside you that naturally, I think human nature is going to, build more of a fire, I think, the next time you play.
Yeah, what Shay said, I agree with completely in that in really across sports, across the board, it's way easier to learn and to kind of grow after a loss than it is a win. Because when you win, it's a little bit like kind of human nature, like, well, we won. Like, yeah, we're going to work on the things that we need to work on, but we won, and I think this Thunder team, again, they've been really good at that throughout the postseason, so we'll see what they can do tonight. Obviously, it's not like game one was horrible. I mean, they very easily could have won the game, but they got to button up some stuff, especially offensively. Need a couple guys just to play better. So I think, SGA, that mindset is, I think, warranted and valid.
Mark Dagnall was asked about this team's just mindset in terms of ability to bounce back.
I mean, we have confidence and wisdom because of the situations we've been in over time. There's no team I'm more confident in being ready to play really in any situation than ours. I'm biased, obviously, but you also have to go make it happen. Those experiences don't guarantee you anything. They certainly don't carry over into the next experience, and so we've got the wisdom from them, we get the confidence from them, but when the ball goes up in the air tomorrow, the better team's going to win, and we want to do everything we can to be that team.
Yeah, so, I mean, they have confidence that they've been able to do it before, but they're not just relying on the fact that they have done it before. And I always like that approach. Like, he always, puts things in such a great way where I think it's, the team, I think, already knows these things, but the way that he, I think, presents that same information, it makes it digestible, I think, in a way where it just resonates with you even more than maybe just the normal coach speak type answers.
No doubt. I mean, because for us, we've said it a lot, not just me and you, but everyone. Like, well, they were in this spot against Denver, right? And then they came back in game two. And Mark, kind of says they're like, that experience, it helps, but it this is totally different. It's a completely different thing. And I think that sort of thing also helps, that these guys aren't just kind of falling back on the laurels of like, we'll be fine. Like, they kind of know, like, this is a whole new thing, new team, new stage. Like, you kind of have to almost humble yourself in a way. And I think that's part of why the Thunder have been so successful, that ability to kind of not really worry about what they've done before and kind of go straight kind of from scratch really each time. I think that's a big part of why they've had the year they've had.
Over the last 2 days, I've heard a lot of differing opinions on what happened in the fourth quarter at the Paycom Center in Game 1. I've heard a lot of people suggest that it was a massive Oklahoma City collapse. I've heard a lot of people say it wasn't a collapse. Indiana was sensational, and it was all Indiana, right? They just made the plays. And then I've heard people, say a little bit of both, right? I mean, the Thunder could have done a lot of things better. You still have to credit Indiana for a lot of their shot making and play making over those final, 9 to 10 minutes of the fourth quarter. J-Dub specifically was asked, what was the difference? How much of it was the shot making of Indiana versus what OKC could have done better?
You never want to overlook the fact that a team made shots, and you try and look back at the film and see why they did that, like what kind of defensive breakdowns we had to allow them to get the looks that they got. Looking back at our offensive process, I thought we were pretty good throughout the whole entire game. So trying to find the balance of improving on offense and also finding just little small things that beat you. These games really come down to one or two possessions, so it's the more we can find throughout the game, little things to lock in on and tighten up, the better we'll be.
He said something there that the first time I heard it, I was like, I don't know about that. He said, I thought our offensive process was good. And I was like, man, that's because my initial reaction was the offense was awful. The more I think about it, though, the process wasn't bad. It was the execution, right? I think he's right. I think the process was fine. There's nothing wrong with the process. They just were so sloppy, I think, on the offensive side of things, and they were not as razor sharp focused with passes and just execution. The execution, I think, was the problem, not necessarily the process. So while I was initially I don't know about that answer, I think he is right. They're just going to have to execute better, and a lot of it was offensive transition situations where there were so many bad passes and, I think Caruso had a charge following a steal. And I mean, just things that I think they have done a lot better this postseason than they did in game 1.
Yeah, Jalen Williams himself had, I think, a transition 3 kind of early in the game that was a bit, that's not really what what they typically would do. So yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, a couple guys just have to play better. We talked about that. J-Dub and Chet especially need to give them more offensively. I mean, they still scored over 110 points. It's not like it was an abomination offensively. It just wasn't what we're used to seeing. Defensively, I agree with J-Dub too in that they generated open shots, but obviously when you limit Halliburton and Siakam the way they did, you kind of are going to live with Obi Toppin and Miles Turner. He was banking threes in from the corner. It's kind of one of those spots where it's they made some tough shots and you make those other guys beat you, and they kind of did, but you probably can live with that, throughout the course of a series. So, it's kind of the theme of this, I guess, is really for me is it's not completely it has to be 110% better everywhere. It just you got to button it up a little bit everywhere. Because again, they led almost wire to wire on Thursday. They
by
were
double digits. Yeah.
They just didn't, they just weren't totally sharp. And it cost them in the end because they didn't have a good final few minutes, obviously.
If they were sharp, they probably win that game by 40. If they just make a few more plays in opportunistic moments, they probably win by 25 or 30, right? They were so close to completely blowing that thing open so many times, and it seemed like every single time they had one of those opportunities to create the avalanche that takes place inside the Paycom Center when they get rolling. They would get that opportunity, and then it was a missed opportunity. It was they would follow up a great play with a failed play, a turnover, or allowing Indiana to have an open three. It just you gain momentum, and then they would immediately lose it, and they were just never able to seize the momentum opportunities to begin the avalanche. So, I mean, 2 or 3 of those opportunities turn out the other way in favor of the Thunder, and it maybe becomes a landslide. So, there are a lot of things that I thought they could have fixed, and if they fix all those things, it's a landslide. If they fix a few of those things, I think it's still a big blowout win. Mm-hmm. And even with all of that, one play in the fourth quarter potentially down the stretch is the difference in winning and losing, and nobody's having this conversation. It was really strange yesterday, I thought, compared to the Game 1 Media Day. Game 1 Media Day, I don't know how you felt, but Game 1 Media Day kind of felt like it was just a coronation for Oklahoma City to go win 4 games and become NBA champions. That was just the overall feel inside the building. I think that was kind of the way that a lot of the national media presented things. And then yesterday, it kind of felt like, how is Oklahoma City going to get back into this series? It was the completely opposite vibe at Media Day yesterday compared to Game 1. And again, I'm sure that probably contributes to the body language, like I was talking about earlier, where the vibe just very much was still living in, I can't believe they lost Game 1, and that has massively shifted the way that people perceive the series. Chet Holmgren was on the floor at one of the podiums, and he was asked if there was a specific moment or sequence in the fourth quarter that allowed the game to get away.
Their team made big shots. We didn't convert down the stretch the way we needed to win the game. And those looks go down early in the game. It's not a 1-point game with 8 seconds left in transition. You know what I'm saying? So you can't just look and put a microscope on the end of the game like that. You have to look at the game as a totality and understand where you can be better and where we have to be better, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. It's easy to just say, Halliburton hits the shot, and that was the difference in the game, but there were so many moments in that game that I thought were big that could have changed the outcome, right? And it's about 48 minutes, and you do things differently before it gets to the point that Halliburton has that opportunity, and maybe that opportunity doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, I think if you're a Thunder fan, that's an encouraging thing to hear from Chet, because it's not like an overreaction of it's not, if you're the Thunder, you have to find a way to avoid the mindset of we just stop Halliburton there and we win. Kind of to your point, you were just saying, throughout the whole night, they had a chance to really push it out. So kind of taking the whole game as one entity and kind of recognizing that there were lots of things over the course of the game that could have been better, and not just boiling it down to what happened in the final 2 minutes that we didn't put it away. When in reality, the whole 48 could have been a lot better and would have been a different game if they had been, again, sharper, playing more to their level throughout the entire night. So that's the right mindset. And I think if you're a Thunder fan, that's encouraging to hear from Chet, that that's the way the team's kind of approaching it.
Speaking of mindset, Isaiah Joe on the floor yesterday at Media Day on the mindset of the Thunder going into Game 2.
We do a really good job of watching film and learning from each and every game, each and every moment. Just our recipe is if we play to our standard for 48 minutes and not have lapses, no gifted possessions and things of that nature, then we believe that the odds are turning in our favor. So just being ourselves and executing our game plan.
If that was just the same exact words, but in Mark Dagnall's voice or in SGA's voice, I wouldn't think twice, right? That sounds exactly like what Mark Dagnall would say or like what SGA would say. I mean, almost word for word, right? Like if you just change the tone of voice to somebody else, and it just, I guess it speaks to how, the messaging for this team resonates with every player. It's not just a couple, like it's very much a team unit. And that's the way those words I think are what we've heard throughout this entire playoff run, right? It's about the Thunder playing to their standard. They're not worried about other people. They set a certain standard for themselves and they're worried about matching their standard ultimately to reach success.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that during Chet's bite as well. That this sounds very Dagnall-y, it really is kind of spreading throughout the whole team. And also that starts with Dagnall and SGA. Those two guys are the leaders of the team, the voices, and you can feel it all the way through the entire roster every time you hear one of these guys talk about it. And what Joe said is right. I mean, if the Thunder are at that point, they've had that kind of year. If they play the way they can and their game plan will be good enough. I feel very confident in that. I think most people do. So, Oklahoma City, it seems like is doing a very good job of not any sort of knee-jerk panic. I continue to go back to the lineup. Will they go back to what they've done throughout the course of the playoffs and obviously the majority of the year? Do they stick with Case and Walls? Because that was something we talked about on Friday. That was kind of not thundery, like a little bit of kind of getting away from what you do a little bit. Yeah. That's an interesting storyline still for me going into tonight. But yeah, I think that across the board, you can hear it when they all talk about it, that they know if we just play better in a bunch of areas, we'll probably be okay tonight, which is true.
Despite the loss, they are still, pretty big favorites in the series. Not historic favorites like they were pre-game one, but they're still pretty big favorites to win the series. Tonight, Josh, they are double-digit favorites. I think the last I saw was 10.5 point favorites to win game 2 tonight. Yeah. So, in terms of the odds and the people that, are trying to make money off of this, they haven't massively shifted their perception of the Thunder and the Pacers and how they match up.
Yeah, we talked about it, I think, on Friday. There's lots of precedent for a series where, the game one team wins on the road and it actually flips the other way. They have below 500 record in the series, which is a crazy stat, and I think probably makes Thunder fans feel a little better about it. Over the course of a 7-game series, the better team is going to win the vast majority of the time. If you thought Thunder were the better team before game one, I don't know if what happened over the course of that night should alter that too much. It's a little bit of a wake-up call. But, tonight will be telling. I think tonight will really let us know kind of what direction we're headed in the course of this series. We both had the Thunder in 5, but we thought it'd be like a competitive 5, not that you're expecting a lot of blowouts or anything. And so that's still possible. It's going to be tough to go win 2 in Indy, but you got to take it one game at a time if you're the Thunder. SJ says it all the time, it's first to 4, not first to 1, obviously. So there's still a long series to go. I think Thunder probably should still be the favorites, and but a lot is on tonight. We'll have a much better, I think, kind of picture of the way this series is maybe going to head after tonight's game. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, 2012 Thunder, by the way, took game 1 from Miami, and then the Heat went and won 4 in a row. So.
It's the reverse.
Yeah, it's the reverse. And I'll reference another historically massive favorite entering the NBA Finals, the Lakers versus the 76ers in I think 2001, 2002-ish, the Iverson Sixers. Yeah. The Lakers were one of the biggest favorites in Finals history, and they gave up game 1 to Iverson. You remember the Iverson stepping over Tyronn Lue highlight? Yeah. That was game 1 of the NBA Finals. Sixers stole it. Everybody was shocked, and then the Lakers won 4 in a row, just like the Heat did. So we'll see how the Thunder rebound. Again, they're big favorites tonight, and this team doesn't seem to get too high or low following any one game. I do think the fact that it was the NBA Finals that collapse happened means a little bit more than like game one of the Denver series. But again, I think this team has shown that they are really good at staying in the moment, staying present, and not dwelling on wins or losses the way that maybe your average team or player would. So I'm geeked for tonight. I think the Paycom Center is going to be ready to erupt with any sort of positive momentum, and if the Thunder can really capitalize on those situations, unlike Game 1, this thing could become a giant blowout. So it's going to be fun tonight.
Blue out tonight too. I love the blue. I'm a sucker for whatever we talked about. Whatever is just the current night is like, I think this might be the best. But the blue out tonight,
Yes.
It's going to be awesome. Should be a great atmosphere. It might be a little bit of nervous energy. I think maybe early, but if they can get off to a good start and shake that off. I mean, I just go back again. It's the finals. It's different. But that game 2 against Denver after the debacle where everyone was kind of like, doing fake trades in the summer, like this isn't like they're going to go out in the second round again. They responded with just an absolute pulverizing of Denver, and it wouldn't shock me if they did that tonight. I think Indiana is really good. I think it'll probably be a competitive game, but you'll get Oklahoma City's best tonight, and they're going to be everywhere defensively. They're going to be flying around, forcing turnovers everywhere. So, and that's they forced turnovers in game 1 and didn't capitalize. So that's another one of those laundry list of things that you think will surely be better tonight in the second go-around.
No doubt. Tip-off 7 p.m. from the Paycom Center, Game 2 of the NBA Finals, and we will have post-game coverage following this massive matchup in the history of OKC. That's Josh Callaway. I am Colby Daniels. Everybody survived the nerves of this Game 2 Sunday afternoon, and tip-off is inching closer and closer. We'll talk to you after the game.